with was Robin.
And I think that I just have to respectfully go, have a good life. Via con Dios.
Before the first ray of sunlight even touched the camp, tension had already started boiling beneath the surface. Special Forces Season 4 didn't need a single obstacle course to ignite drama. It was brewing long before anyone laced up their boots. The recruits still had their phones in hand, still posting, still cheering each other on across Instagram and Twitter. Fire emojis, playful shoutouts, and "can't wait to crush it with you" filled the feeds like a pre-battle rallying cry. But there was one name that remained in complete silence: Kody Brown. No tags, no cheers, no camaraderie. His absence was so loud it became the headline fans couldn't ignore. Then came the moment that shifted everything. A casual chill out from another castmate, tossed in like a harmless joke, but to viewers who know Kody's history, it hit like a thunderclap. For a man who built his life around control and authority, those two words were poison. It was a warning, a dismissal, and a challenge rolled into one. And just like that, the very first test of the season wasn't on a muddy field or an icy river. It was in the silent, ruthless battlefield of egos. Special Forces doesn't care about fame or family trees. On this ground, no one bends to your reputation. The uniform strips away every ounce of privilege, leaving nothing but grit and resilience. For Kody, who has always thrived in a world where his word was final, this was a brutal awakening. His demand for respect, whether spoken aloud or carved into his posture, collided instantly with the reality that here, respect wasn't inherited, it had to be bled for. What made it worse was that the isolation didn't start in camp. Fans had already noticed the strange quiet online. As the cast hyped one another up, laughing and bonding publicly, Kody stood apart, an outsider before the first whistle blew. To many, it wasn't coincidence. It looked like the first spark of rejection, a deliberate distance that whispered louder than words. And when people begin labeling you as the odd man out, that shadow grows quickly, smothering any chance of blending in. By the time Gia Giudice and her mother Teresa were trading encouragement and lighting up timelines with warmth and banter, Kody's feed felt cold and barren. The contrast was impossible to miss. Where others were forming trust before stepping into the mud, Kody was already cornered, carrying the weight of suspicion. Perception on Special Forces is deadly. If your peers believe you're difficult to connect with, they won't waste energy trying. And when you're knee-deep in freezing water with a sandbag on your shoulders, those missing connections suddenly matter. But then came the comment that twisted the knife. Gia, glowing with preseason excitement on her podcast, praised the group, gushed about the unity, and celebrated the shared strength. But her carefully chosen words carried an undertone no one missed. "I can't even name one person I didn't get along with," she said with a laugh before pausing. "But there were definitely some people who could get under your skin a little bit." She didn't drop a name, she didn't have to. The internet lives for breadcrumbs. And within minutes, fans had traced the line straight back to Kody. Comment sections exploded. Was this Gia's polite way of calling him out? Was the outsider narrative already locked in before the first day of training? Insiders whispered that Gia hadn't meant to light a firestorm, but the placement of her remark was everything. Teresa, her mother, only spoke of positivity and strength, but Gia's subtle dig gave fans a mystery to chew on. And with Kody's social silence already buzzing in the background, her comment was like striking a match on gasoline. Suddenly, audiences weren't just waiting for the grueling drills or near-impossible survival tasks. They were waiting for the moment Kody cracked. Because on Special Forces, survival isn't just about endurance, it's about trust. And Kody had already lost his before the game even began.
You know, I don't want to be sexist here, but why does a guy have to sleep on the couch? It's his room too.
Set that against the lonely image of Kody Brown, standing like an outcast on the edge of the pre-show social circle, and the storyline practically wrote itself. Every other cast member seemed to slide easily into alliances, laughing, cheering, building connections before the cameras even rolled. Meanwhile, Kody was left on the sidelines, a man used to commanding attention suddenly invisible in a crowd that didn't need him. And the whispers started early. Reality TV isn't just about what you do, it's about how people perceive you. And perception was already turning against him. By the time the cast boarded planes to Morocco, Kody was carrying a spotlight he hadn't asked for but couldn't shake. The audience was already primed, waiting for him to stumble, eager to interpret even the smallest interaction as proof of conflict. And then, like gasoline on an already burning fire, came the next revelation. If Gia Giudice's sly comment on her podcast had been a breadcrumb hinting at drama, what another castmate revealed was a neon arrow pointing directly at Kody. During a fan Q&A on Instagram, Brianna Chicken Fry didn't hold back. She was asked straight up about Kody Brown. And instead of playing it safe, instead of sugarcoating, her answer was blunt and cold. She and Kody did not get along. No excuses about stress, no qualifiers about the pressures of filming, just a clean line in the sand. And with those words, the rumors hardened into reality. Fans who had been guessing and theorizing suddenly had confirmation. The divide wasn't just in their heads, it was real. The impact was immediate. Brianna's honesty carried weight because she wasn't known to mince words. Her reputation for being unfiltered meant that when she said she and Kody didn't connect, people believed her. And to make it worse for him, Brianna had clicked easily with nearly everyone else, including Gia. Their cheerful banter and natural friendship only highlighted Kody's isolation. On a show built around survival and teamwork, he was shaping up to be the one man no one wanted to rely on. And that's the danger of special forces. It isn't just about climbing walls or hauling sandbags. It's about whether your fellow recruits believe you're worth carrying when you collapse. If they don't trust you, if they don't feel invested in your success, every task becomes heavier. For Kody, the optics were damning. Viewers saw a man stepping into a team-based survival course already cut off from two of his peers. The story didn't need editing. It was unfolding in plain sight. All of this was happening before the real brutality even began. Before the first sleep-deprived march through the night, before the freezing rivers and screaming instructors. The social temperature was rising fast, and Kody hadn't even dirtied his uniform yet. And once the rules took effect, there would be nowhere left to hide. The stripping down began immediately, and it was merciless. Sean Johnson East and Andrew East, a married couple competing this season, later described those first hours in vivid detail. They called it 10 times harder than what viewers saw on screen. The rules weren't just strict, they were suffocating. Uniforms were identical, stripped of any individuality. No favorite hoodie, no lucky sneakers, no personal expression. Just the same drab gear, the same rigid standard, the same erasure of identity. 5 personal items were allowed, and they had to be bare essentials: deodorant, toothpaste, a hairbrush. Anything sentimental? Forget it. Anything that reminded you of comfort, of home, of who you were before stepping into this world. Gone. Phones were taken. Internet vanished. No books, no music, no distraction to soften the hours. Just the walls, the dirt, and the unblinking stares of fellow recruits who might be your lifeline, or your downfall. For most contestants, it was a shock. For someone like Kody, insiders whispered, it was devastating. He had built his life around presentation, control, carefully shaping how he appeared to the world. His hair, his clothes, his ability to call someone and vent, all part of his armor. And now, that armor was stripped away, leaving nothing but the raw, unfiltered man beneath. Special Forces thrives on that exposure. The uniformity isn't just about fairness, it's psychological warfare. When you can't hide behind image, the only thing that defines you is your behavior. Every word, every twitch, every reaction becomes your identity. Some contestants thrive in that nakedness. For others, it feels like being paraded without protection. And Kody? He was unraveling. The first few hours may have seemed manageable, even tolerable. But as the days dragged on, as drills grew harsher and exhaustion dug its claws into everyone's bones, the absence of comfort began eating away at him. He had no allies to soften the blows, no one to lean on when the weight became unbearable. Gia had Teresa. Brianna had her growing circle. Even Sean and Andrew had each other. But Kody had no one. And for a man who once ruled over a family of nearly 24, that loneliness was the cruelest strip down of all. And the brutal truth? The stripping down wasn't just physical, It was psychological, emotional, designed to tear apart the persona until nothing but the vulnerable core was left exposed. Before anyone even touched the first obstacle, the cast was forced into a ritual designed to strip them bare, not just of comfort, but of the masks they thought they could hide behind. Losing your phone and favorite hoodie takes away the outside armor, but the Special Forces psychological evaluation cut straight to the inside. Every single contestant had to sit through a probing interview, and according to Sean and Andrew, East, it was anything but surface level. These weren't polite check-ins about mental health. The evaluators came loaded with receipts, headlines, past controversies, buried mistakes you'd rather never mention. Their job was simple: push until they found your breaking point. The instructors weren't just testing brawn. They wanted to know how you crumbled when your secrets and scars were dragged into the open. And insiders reveal these evaluations aren't just paperwork. They're blueprints. They tell the staff where you're most likely to snap and how to drive you right to that edge. For some, it's liberating. For others, it's a nightmare come to life. And for Kody Brown, the timing couldn't have been worse. His life has been dissected for over a decade on Sister Wives. The marriages, the fractures, the fallout. But on that show, he always had some control over the narrative. Here, that control vanished. If the instructors wanted to poke at old wounds, Kody had to answer, raw and unedited, while the cameras rolled. Adding to the tension, sources whisper that his own family hadn't even known he'd signed up until news broke publicly. That meant Kody walked into those psych evaluations with fresh strain waiting for him at home. And no matter how strong you pretend to be, baggage like that follows you into camp. Worse still, in a high-pressure environment like Special Forces, that baggage tends to surface in ways you least expect. For contestants already bonding in camp, being seen as guarded or defensive during those interviews could change how teammates trusted you later. And for someone already seen as the outsider, it only deepened the gap. The effects showed quickly. While Gia and Teresa Giudice glided through drills like a well-oiled machine, mirroring each other's pace, lifting each other without words, Kody stumbled through a revolving door of assigned partners. Brianna Chicken Fry carved her lane too, finding her tribe with castmates who matched her humor and high energy. Those small wins mattered. Even under the harsh no-comfort rules, those inside jokes and bursts of encouragement softened the grind. Kody, on the other hand, had no cushion. No one waiting with a hand on his shoulder when the tasks piled up. Each new drill meant recalibrating with someone new, and if they already doubted him, the partnership was broken before it began. And in Special Forces, trust is everything. When you believe your teammate has your back, you risk more, you push harder, you go farther. Without that trust, every challenge becomes about survival, not teamwork. The optics didn't lie. On one side, alliances formed like lifelines. On the other, Kody often looked like a man walking a barren road with no one beside him. By the time the days blurred into nights, the novelty was gone, and the exhaustion was setting in. Everyone looked the same. Same dirt-streaked fatigues, same scuffed boots, same sweat-matted hair. Status symbols and polish had been erased. The only thing left to define you was how you acted in the moment. That's when patterns became impossible to ignore. Some contestants leaned into the team, quietly lifting more weight or stepping forward to volunteer. Others kept their circle small, protecting themselves. The instructors noticed everything and magnified it. They rewarded cooperation with leadership and punished selfishness with harsher tests. And in the middle of it all, Kody himself dropped. The most shocking tease of the season, in preseason interviews, he admitted viewers would see him full-on sobbing. Not a rumor, not a slip from another castmate, his own words. For a man who has spent years carefully balancing vulnerability with control on national TV, it was a startling admission. Tears here aren't casual, they're a signal. On Special Forces, crying isn't just about sadness, it's about breaking. You're cold, hungry, sleepless, sore, stripped of all identity, with no escape from the mental grind. Small frustrations snowball into avalanches, and when the dam bursts, it's rarely just one thing. For some, those tears become a breakthrough, a reset that builds resilience. For others, it's the first crack that marks the beginning of the end. And when the premiere airs, the edit will decide which story those tears tell. Were they the symbol of transformation, or the proof that Kody never truly adapted to the environment? Meanwhile, Gia and Teresa seemed unshaken, their bond steady, their composure intact. That contrast sharpened the picture, one recruit breaking down while others carried the weight with quiet strength. Insiders whisper that production captured far more than we'll ever see. Maybe Kody's tears followed a brutal drill, a clash with a teammate, or even a direct confrontation about his past choices. Whatever the truth, one thing is certain: those sobs will be the centerpiece of debate, the moment fans argue over long after the credits roll. Because when Season 4 of Special Forces hits screens this September, viewers won't just be watching who conquers the mud, ropes, and freezing rivers. They'll be dissecting dynamics. Who earned respect by carrying others? Who adapted with humility? And who demanded authority only to find none of it mattered? For Kody, the brutal irony is clear. On Sister Wives, his voice shaped the story. Here in the mud, the only thing that speaks is action. And respect isn't handed out. It's earned, pound by pound, tear by tear. So the question hangs heavy. Will his sobbing mark a redemption arc, or a cautionary tale of a reality star out of his depth? Either way, the edit promises to deliver the answer.